Okay, let's go ahead and call the January 2nd, 2025 Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. Can we have the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Sibley.
Here.
Commissioner Fenster.
Here.
Commissioner Tarek.
Here.
Chairman Lane.
Here.
Commissioner Norton.
Here.
Commissioner Jacoby.
Here.
Commissioner Barnard.
Here.
Councilmember Mayor Peck.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item of business is approval of the December 5th, 2024 minutes. Do any commissioners have any comments or corrections? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Barnard, seconded by Commissioner Fenster. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Minutes are approved unanimously. Next item is report from the chair. And I don't have anything in particular on my end to report other than I do want to take this opportunity to introduce our two new commissioners. So we have Mary Frances O'Day, right, and Sue Henderson. All right, so thank you for joining us. I don't know that this is going to be a real long meeting, so that's a good first one to start. But welcome. So then we'll move on to communication from HBC staff.
I don't have too much to share, aside from one agenda item change. We did have a tentative item for the to discuss the Beaupre Farms annexation. That applicant has asked to come to the March meeting instead. Just as background, there are historic resources on that site that we discussed when this commission discussed the Terry Lake Sewer Project some time ago, and the county ultimately was able to get that sewer project rerouted to avoid some of the farm buildings, and so now there's a proposed annexation and development plan. The county has made comments that they need to come up with some kind of historic preservation plan working with this commission, and so I am working with the project manager to hold their feet to the fire on that, because those county referral comments do matter, and they also help kind of bolster our positions that they need to do that. So we'll hear from them in March. I believe also in March we've got a couple other additional items in March as well. Namely, I believe the project manager from the city for the Ute Creek golf maintenance silo facility wants to just kind of give an update of kind of where they are with their project. But stay tuned for that. The only other item we'll get to when we start discussing the retreat under new business. So that's really all I have.
Okay, thanks. My only question is survey plan. We will be seeing a final one in March or
Yes,
before that?
But hopefully before then.
Yeah.
Actually, before then, we will have that. So they are incorporating everything, so we should be good to go on that.
Okay. Not that we would make a formal action on it, but it would also be helpful to have that at the retreat. Right?
Yeah, and I think it would just be, rather than an actual adoption, maybe there's a motion to accept it or something. I can discuss with Jeremy the most appropriate way to handle how we'll treat that, since it's sort of a policy document, but it's kind of in an interesting space where it's not necessarily a policy document. So I'm not sure if we need to adopt it formally or not, but we'll definitely have that before the retreat.
Okay, great. Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Next item would be public invited to be heard. And so if there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forward, you're certainly welcome. No? Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and close the public invited to be heard. And now we move on to annual business. So this is our first meeting of the year. We handle election of officers and approval of our meeting dates and location and agenda postings and so on. So I think I'll break up the first few here. We'll do election of the chair first on its own. And I will reiterate, as I do every year, that if anybody else is really super interested in doing this, they're more than welcome to raise their hand. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I nominate you.
Yes.
It's been a short year, man. You gotta keep going.
Okay. Commissioner Lane has been nominated to the chair position by Commissioner Norton and seconded by Commissioner Fenster. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not that I would win if I did. So I'll continue to be the chair for this upcoming year. Next would be election of vice chairperson. And so I think I'll return the favor and nominate our currently sitting vice chair, Commissioner Norton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion by Chairman Lane and a second by Commissioner Sibley to nominate Commissioner Norton as vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, there we are. That gets our election of officers. And you will have, looking at the meeting list, I will most likely be absent for the June meeting because that's the AIA National Convention. So there'll be at least one meeting where you'll actually have to sit here and do this. I know the gavel is a fun thing. I didn't use it today.
That's the only reason I'm here.
All right, next would be approval of meeting dates and times, and I believe in the packet we do have kind of an outline of those, and we do have a couple we should probably discuss. One would be to confirm that we have a retreat date set for the 8th of February.
We do. We have the
Okay.
Callahan House reserved again for that.
Okay, great. And then we have a meeting scheduled on the 3rd of July, which is a touch goofy, given that's a long weekend that'll start immediately. We've also had issues trying to reschedule these in the past to another date, but I am open to any feedback that commissioners have about whether that date works or not.
So,
It-
how difficult would it be? Because I know, to Commissioner Lane's point, last year I think we had issues.
Oh, hit your
because-
mic, would you please?
Sorry. Last year. Did I do it right?
No, all right, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not coming up. Yeah, all I get, there it is, okay, I had to, okay. All right, now you're good. All I had was a mute button.
Last year, did most of our problems stem from the fact that we had to move meetings around? Like, is it easier to move them around this year?
It is a
'cause
challenge.
construction?
Yeah, well, last year we adjusted the meeting times because of construction.
Right.
The challenge with changing the meeting dates is that other boards and commissions use this room also. So that can definitely present some challenging difficulties. That's really where the biggest issue is figuring out what days are available, if we want to stick with Thursdays, if we want to try another date. Last July, our meeting date was on July 4th, which was a holiday, so obviously that wasn't going to work. I think we rescheduled it for later in the month, for the following week, if memory serves correctly. So really the biggest challenge would be just finding a date that this room is available. So that's something Maria can take a look at as far as availability, and we can find out what the availability would be and
Okay.
follow up at the retreat on this item.
And then,
Commissioner Barnett?
Yes, October 2nd is Yom Kippur,
Oh,
so
okay,
I won't be able to make that.
okay.
I probably wouldn't either.
You probably wouldn't either.
Okay.
My wife.
Rick
Um,
and I both
Yep.
can't make it.
Okay. I think I think there was a potential issue around Labor Day, but I don't know that that's a really big deal. That was after. So I'm okay with taking a look at both the July and October meetings and seeing if we can't flip them to the following Thursday.
Sounds good.
If
Okay.
anyone has an objection to that? No? All right, so I'll go ahead and move that we accept the calendar with those two exceptions, that we move July from the 3rd to the 10th, and October from the 2nd to the 9th. Am I missing anything?
There's a board that does meet every month, the following Thursday,
Oh, really?
in here.
In here? Okay. Okay, we could, the other, I guess, option would be to do Wednesday, which I think we tried to do last year, and then I forgot about it and didn't show up. So that, there is that danger.
Wednesday the 2nd or Wednesday the 8th?
So it'd be the 8th of October and the,
So the 8th of October?
8th of October and the 9th of July?
We'll see what rooms are available. We'll see
Start-
if, we'll see
start
if this
there.
room is available and go from there.
And I'll make a note, it was not Maria's fault at all, because she put in giant bold letters in the headline that it was Wednesday. Remember, it's Wednesday, and it was completely lost.
Autopilot is a dangerous thing sometimes.
Yes, don't break the routine. Okay, well, so I'll revise that motion to accept the calendar with the two exceptions in July and October being to move them to the following Wednesday, July 9th and October 8th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, I've heard Commissioner Fenster first, so we'll, so seconded by Commissioner Fenster. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so if we can just have a look at that earlier than later, because if we have to change those, then it, as we get closer, it gets more difficult. I'm going to lump the meeting location and meeting agenda posting location into one here. If we can talk about all of those together. Typically, we meet here at, oh, I guess I was supposed to do times. Sorry, I didn't notice that. So we'll lump that in here. So basically, approve a meeting location of being this room and remaining at 5 o'clock. That's what it says in the bylaws. And then the agenda posting locations remain online. And do we physically post this anywhere still? We do. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, can we approve keeping our meeting location, time, and agenda posting locations unchanged?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Norton and seconded by Commissioner Jacoby. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. And then the last item we have. Yeah. Commissioner Barnett?
We've talked about, I sent a note to Maria, and Jen is aware of this, and I've talked to you about it, that in the election of the chairperson, the last line of that is that where it is? City of Longmont follows Robert's Rules of Order for public meetings. But we had this discussion last year, and we fixed it in our bylaws. So the bylaws are correct, that we follow Robert's rules of order, except as otherwise described in these bylaws and applicable to city, state, and federal laws and regulations. So that's section 7 of our rules of procedure. So the rules of procedure are correct. We fixed it last year, they're carried over correct, but it's just, there's slight difference between that and the staff report, so I just wanted to clarify that. We don't really need to do anything except when we take up the rules, I won't say anything because they're okay.
Right, yeah. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about the bylaws? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Oop, okay. Let's see, a motion by Commissioner Fenster, and I'm going to give a second to Commissioner Tarrick here. All those in favor of approving the bylaws? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the bylaws as submitted are approved. Okay, that's all the business stuff that we need to deal with for the evening. So, given that, what else do we have on our agenda here? We don't really have a public hearing item, so what do we have for new business?
If there are any particular items we want to include on the retreat agenda on
Okay.
February 8th, that's the biggest one.
Okay, yep, I had that on my list, I just wanted to see if
Okay.
you had anything else. Okay. So, yeah, I guess if folks have any comments on the retreat agenda, last year we did have a review of the previous year as kind of an opening, so that makes sense, just to remind us all what we managed to do this year. Obviously, the survey plan will be a big part of that, doing a quick final review. Moving forward from that, our next survey plan oriented goal, right? Surveying, we could categorize those last meeting in terms of the priorities. So I think discussing further how we actually act on that and get that first round of surveying funded and actively beginning. And then we had a few other kind of random discussions, but I'll open it up to the commission and for anyone who would like to throw something out that we might want to put on the agenda before we wrap up. If anybody has anything in particular. Commissioner Jacoby.
Well, I just went through some of my scribbles from previous meetings, and there's a number of drop topics that we just haven't come back to. I don't know if we want to address them at the retreat, like solar panels. We kind of came into an agreement, but I don't think we formally came to an agreement on what we wanted to do about that. We made this suggestion at one point, coordination with Longmont Historical Society. We talked about getting together with them. We haven't. We could do it at the retreat, or we could just talk about whether I don't know. But that's something we could think about. We talked about in the past letters to historically designated houses. I think a lot of people who own these places don't even realize the advantages and disadvantages or restrictions on having historically designated houses. A letter sent out every 5 years, I think, would be a reasonable thing, but that was something we talked about and we kind of dropped. And then was my pet little topic of certificate of merit that I feel like we kind of never totally address. I think it could be a better tool for us if we worked it, but I don't know if we haven't addressed it because people there's not enthusiasm, or if we should look at that again. But those are four things I just thought about that might be worth adding to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Norton.
Thanks. So I think also in the past, we've talked about establishing a grants calendar so we know when deadlines are coming up. I think that's something we could definitely talk about, and, I can come with dates for at least some of the state stuff. However, the next deadline, if we wanted a competitive grant, which I don't know if we do, letters of intent are due to the State Historical Fund on March 18th, and then the application deadline is April 1st. So February isn't too late, but it also feels like too late to start talking about that. So I at least wanted to put it on everyone's radar. But I guess maybe what we also need to do is talk about how we might be prioritizing the recommended surveys from the survey plan. So they just kind of feel like those two things go together. Okay.
And do you think that that is necessarily a competitive grant item, or it could be a non-competitive?
It could be. I was actually really shocked at how reasonable their estimated prices for those surveys were. I thought it would be a little bit higher. So we might not need to rush for a competitive grant, but just so that we are aware that we even need to talk about that, I think, or have
Right.
that idea in mind.
Right. And then what would the timing be for the next non-competitive, do you know?
Those are rolling.
The rolling?
Yeah,
Okay.
so as long as they have money to give out, we can apply at any time.
Okay,
And we're halfway through the state fiscal year.
okay.
Okay. Give or
Okay,
take.
so they just, as long as the state doesn't run out of money, there's
Right.
potential?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I think that's really important. Thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Barnard.
I have some of my notes from last year, and one of them was possibility we would discuss during the retreat the plans for Historic Preservation Month, and it's going to be this year, it'll probably be again in May of 2025. So it's good time, and we don't have time to do that at a meeting like this, but I think it's a good retreat thing. Talked about establishing a booth at one of the Main Street festivals. Can we talk about that, see if there's any interest in that? I'd be glad to sit at it for a little while. I mean, you know, but it's a way of just getting out into the community. We might, and to follow up on what Rick said, maybe we could invite for part of the meeting a representative of the St. Vrain Historic Society to just sit in for half an hour, talk about what they do, and see, well, that's we had a bunch of other stuff, but I think that probably cover most of the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an interesting suggestion to have someone from the Historical Society, if they were interested in popping in and just introducing. That feels like that might be worthwhile to, combine interests. The only thing that I haven't heard that I do remember seeing, and it might not be much of one, but just whatever else is going on with Sugar Mill, if there's anything, right? If there's any update to that.
What do we have, what do we have thus far?
For the agenda?
No, regarding Sugar Mill.
Oh, Sugar Mill. Nothing really. I mean, there's been we had a presentation probably close to a year ago where there were some there was a little bit of momentum towards that. There were CU students had a studio where they basically ran through a handful of potential designs for the area, and they came and presented to us, which was kind of fun. But it's all theoretical, so everything is sort of theoretical right now. It's a massive, brownfield site that's going to take $10 million to get anywhere with. But I know, but they're still, milling around.
I can also see if I'll talk to Tony Chacon, who really is handling a lot of the sugar factory, the sugar mill area work, and see if there are any kind of key times that are coming up, because it might be something that would be appropriate to present at a regular meeting. March looks like it's getting a little full already, but possibly April, but sometime early this year, see when he thinks he might have some information to share.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I would like to see us become more proactive on the subject. However we might do that. Take a position on what should happen to it.
Yeah, the problem with it is it's not in our jurisdiction at all.
I realize. and
So that
may be,
becomes a fairly big sticking point. I
yeah,
think.
that may be all the more reason
Yeah.
for taking a position.
Yeah. I think you could certainly throw that out there for discussion at the retreat.
Why shouldn't we be the impetus?
Well, I think there is, in part, I think that this commission has a very specific job to do that's in the municipal ordinance, right? And and that job is not, it's to support historic preservation, right? But it's not necessarily to be, an outside champion of it in the community. And that's maybe more of a St. Vrain's historical society. I mean, it's like, if you want to do that, join the historical society and jump and be a sort of crusader in the community. That's my 2 cents. Other people might have different opinions, but I think that's, we have a statutory job. Yeah. Commissioner Barnett.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Fenster makes a good point as far as our interest is concerned. And I think the idea of getting a report on the current status would be helpful, whether it's at the retreat or afterwards. But we also have to be careful because it's not in the city. And so we may have a statutory problem on getting involved other than, and I think the other thing is, I followed this very closely, and I was on the phone call with 17 other properties from 17 other cities around the state, and I can tell you that nobody has a good answer in any of the 17 cities. Nobody knows what they're going to do. So it's, I think we want to be careful with our resources as far as spending a lot of time on something that doesn't appear to have an easy resolution. And I think getting a report on what people who are involved in it, what they're doing, is as far as I'm willing to spend time right now.
Let's see. Mayor Peck.
Thank you. I just want to weigh in on this a little bit. You do know that there are 5 owners of those properties out there, and one of the property owners has been an issue. I'll just say that. And my opinion right now is we need to be careful if there's any litigation going on, that we don't interfere with that and get involved in something that, because it is not it's not in our city, I would suggest waiting to make sure everything's all cleared up and that it is going to be annexed, and then perhaps decide if it's worth pursuing. That's just coming from the information that I know, and the only reason I'm saying that is because one of the property owners did reach out to me, and I need to put distance because it is not in our purview right now to be involved.
Thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Fenster. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't take a position, even if it's a theoretical position. It's, from my perspective and my background, it's an important historic place, and having no position on it, we can certainly do that, but taking a position on it could foster some positive results in the end, and we are in a position to say something.
Okay, thanks for that discussion. I think that's good. Any other comments about items that might want to be on the agenda for? I think that feels probably like a pretty full slate for, we have 2 hours, 3 hours? Well, I can't remember.
3 hours.
3
So
hours,
we
okay.
typically hold them from 1 to 4.
Okay, and this will be again at the Callahan House?
Correct, at the Callahan House. So afternoons seem to work better from avoiding kids' sports things. So, yeah, and then just also getting everything set up and such. So it seemed to work, the time seemed to work well last year, so.
Okay.
So yeah, 1 to 4, that one we have a little bit of cushion with the room space so that if we do overflow a little bit, if we do run over a little bit, we've got that cushion.
Okay, okay. And just to be 100% clear, we're certainly hopeful that our alternate members are able to attend as well. We really,
Yep,
Value
those
your-
invites will be going out.
okay, great. Okay. I think that you feel like you've got an adequate amount. You want, perhaps maybe if you want to run through an agenda and just shoot it to me before we publish and we can just,
Absolutely, yeah, I'll get a draft agenda out early next week.
okay. Sounds great. All right. Anything else for business this evening? No, we can't quite do that. We do have a couple other items on our, yes, we formally, as long as we're done with new business, yeah, then I would have any HPC commissioner comments to remember. Seeing none, Mayor, do you have any additional comments for us? No. Except for I just want to wish everybody a happy New Year. All right, thank you. Okay, now we're ready, Commissioner. All right. Okay, motion to adjourn from Commissioner Barnett and a second by Commissioner Jacoby. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
I know.
Yeah, I think we didn't quite set a record, but we're like about 5 minutes past.